Campfires, camp songs, camp food. Those are just 3 of the many memories of camp. And while at first glance a lot of you might think that camp is nothing more than s'mores, rock climbing, canoe trips, those might be the first things to come to mind, but camp is so much more than that. It's an experience, it's a transformation, and it's a life changer. 16 years ago, I was shy, nervous, and had no idea what the world looked like outside of my own hometown. I was a kid living in one of the largest Black communities east of Toronto, and I had no idea where life would take me. For the first few years of camp, I got the same feeling every summer. I questioned whether the kids would like me, whether the leaders would be nice, and I questioned whether or not I would see any of my old friends from the year before. It's kind of like that feeling that you get the first day of school. I'm sure a lot of you can remember that. But camp wasn't school. There was no algebra, there was no physics, there was definitely no marketing. But what there was laughter. There was games, there was skits. For me, it was kind of like an escape. It was a paradise. It was truly a home away from home. And while the feeling is similar to school, there's another thing that it also had familiar with school, and that's the idea of learning. When I look at my life, there's so many things that I learned while at the Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, and I want to share with you a few of those lessons today. I learned about people, I learned about different cultures, but more importantly than anything, I learned a lot about myself. Without camp, I don't know if the man I see when I look in the mirror would be the same man standing in front of me today. I do not know where I'd be today if it wasn't for camp. I consider myself lucky. Over my life, I've seen friends buried before they're 25 years old. I've seen friends go to jail, and I've seen friends who struggle to make ends meet. Could I have been in their shoes? There's no doubt about it. But because of camp, I was able to take a different road and a different path. I went through the entire Tim Hortons Children's Foundation program, and I was given a scholarship each of the 4 years in university. Not only did that scholarship allow me to be one of the first males in my family to graduate from university, it also allowed my sister to follow the year after and go to school as well because my parents could actually afford to put her through. You see, in life, when we go through life, there are a lot of obstacles and challenges thrown at us. Yet, it's those who have a goal, a quest, or a vision that are able to kind of continue to push through. The old mission statement, and I don't know if it still is, so this isn't kind of a pitch or anything, but there was a mission statement that said that the Tim Hortons Children's Foundation strove to instill within the young people the quest for a brighter future. And that's what those scholarships did. It made me push myself through high school to say, okay, at the end of this, if I get that scholarship, I'll be able to do better for my family, for myself, and for my community. In life, like I said, we face obstacles, we face challenges, and we all face threats. Yet when you have those goals, when you have that quest laid out in front of you, it just pushes you to try harder, to move forward. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned from camp is the idea of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Like I said, when I was a kid, I was shy, I was nervous, I didn't talk a lot. The kids at school weren't that creative, so my nickname was Shy Ross. Not very original. I can remember breaking out of my shell at camp, and within just a few days being there, I was up on stage dancing, throwing on weird costumes, learning about myself, doing all kinds of crazy things I would have never done back home. And I owe that to camp. It was uncomfortable for me at 19 years old to start my first business in my parents' basement. It was uncomfortable for me to run for the Marketing Society VP when I really didn't know what I was doing. It was uncomfortable for me to quit a job with great benefits and start my own consulting company. And for all of this, I owe it to the foundation. I look at what I've accomplished over the last few years, and while the accomplishments, the accolades, and all of that stuff is great, one thing that Tim Hortons Children's Foundation taught me that is more important than anything else is the idea of giving back. It's an idea that made a lot of my friends think I was crazy. It was the idea that I kind of had an obligation to give back to the camp that had done so much for me. So instead of taking an internship where I could have made much more money, I just turned 19 so I could have partied, I decided that I was going to go back to camp, but this time as an employee. And I was going to work with the kids and work for the camp that had done so much for me, with one intention. And that was an intention to give back to those kids what the camp had done for me. I want to share with you a story that I read to my campers when I was working there. While walking along a beach, an elderly gentleman saw someone in the distance leaning down, picking something up and throwing it into the ocean. As he got closer, he noticed the figure was that of a young man, picking up starfish, one by one, and tossing each of them into the water. He came closer still and called out, "Good morning. May I ask you what you're doing?" The young man paused, looked up, and replied, "Throwing starfish into the ocean." The old man smiled and said, "I must ask, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?" The young man replied, "The sun is up and the tide is out. If I do nothing, they'll die." Upon hearing this, the elderly observer commented, "But young man, do you not realize that there are miles and miles of beach, and there are many starfishes upon every single mile? You can't possibly make a difference." The young man listened politely, then he bent down, picked up another starfish, and gently threw it into the ocean. He looked back at the man, and he said it made a difference to that one. I'm a strong believer in action. I believe that doing things changes things. I believe that every action has an equal or greater reaction. And to me, those starfish represent all of the thousands of children that the Tim Hortons Children's Foundation have helped. And I believe that those starfish will hit the water and it will cause a ripple effect. I believe that it will start to cause a wave. And I believe that those starfish can go on to do great things. One drop into the water causes a ripple. That ripple grows into a wave, and over time, that wave becomes bigger. Let me read to you one final thing. It's a letter that I got from a camper just a few months ago. It said, "Hey Threads," that was my nickname at camp. I'll tell you guys that story later. "I never really thanked you. You're the biggest reason I kept going back to camp, and camp changed my life. Therefore, you changed my life. Ha ha ha, LOL. You were the best counselor I ever had. You're an awesome guy. And when I went back as a counselor, I wanted to be just like you. Man, you've done so much for me. Honestly, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be having this much fun and enjoying life as much as I am. Thank you so much." I sent him a note back, and he told me that he was writing his test this month to become an RCMP officer. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you see how camp doesn't just impact one child. It impacts their family, it impacts their community, and it impacts all of those that they meet. Tonight, celebrate the idea of creating a wave. Push yourself to be comfortable getting uncomfortable, and ensure the next time that you're on a beach, you don't ignore the starfish. Thank you for listening.